This dawning epoch, this age of reason, an empire grown fat, ripe for the bleeding.
Blood and bloat, filth and foul power the grotesque factory at the heart of Amnesia, a machine for pigs. What steam there is should sooner emanate from a swine's rotting corpse than a coal furnace. The game presents a regime of production where waste is not merely spurned or reduced, it is the very driver of the great engine itself. Malodorous fumes pump the pistons, and pigs are ferried down the line by the momentum of their death throes. For the French intellectual Georges Bataille, the harnessing and taming of excess is the true aim of all political economy. In his 1949 work, The Accursed Share, he develops a new theory oriented around consumption rather than production. To Bataille, all life is endowed with energy beyond what is required for its simple functioning. This excess is usually allocated to growth and reproduction, but he writes, "If the excess cannot be completely absorbed in its growth, it must necessarily be lost without profit. It must be spent, willingly or not, gloriously or catastrophically." This wayward expenditure, emblematic of everything from excrement to human sacrifice, constitutes that cursed portion of human activity, the accursed share. In this video, I'd like to enlist Bataille to illuminate the murky depths of Amnesia, a Machine for Pigs. A game about the horror of consumption, it features sacrificial rites, cannibalism, industrialization, and the limits of the human mind among its many themes, all of which happen to be among Bataille's greatest fascinations. Join us as we explore the bowels of this horrid machine.
Mandus, do you know me?
Who are you? Where are my children?
Trapped, Mandus, far below us. The machine is fouled, it is breached, it is flooded.
You play as Oswald Mandus, a wealthy meatpacking industrialist recently awoken from a fevered sleep to find that his children are missing. It's New Year's Eve, 1899. On the precipice of the new century, you descend ever deeper into the machine you don't remember constructing. Gradually, it is revealed that Mandus encountered a terrible power in an Aztec ruin, a power that showed him the bloody future of the 20th century and impelled him to avert it. So, he constructed a machine to uplift humanity by debasing it, to direct the impulse of the accursed share to his own ends, a machine for pigs. Dualism and reflections abound in the game's imagery. The mansion you traverse in the opening is full of trick walls and one-way mirrors. Already we are attuned to the duplicity of the game environment. As Bataille writes, each thing seen is the parody of another, or is the same thing in a deceptive form. The loading screens feature the schematics of the area you're about to enter, but the clean forms belie the fetid horrors you encounter in each. This is the duality of the modern impulse to rationalize the world.
I am constructing an architecture to wrestle our damnation to the ground and smother it with steam.
Blueprints can never capture the leaks and slippages that materialize wherever humans are involved. And don't look to them for navigational aid either. Your path through the levels is not a linear and ordered one. Valves open, staircases rescind, secret passages extend. The bulk of what you actually do in the game is repair work, until Mandus regains his memory and sets about undoing all that he has built. As a result, you make your way through the world as a surgeon, or perhaps a coroner. Even the game makes clear this metaphor of factory as body. In one note, Mandus explains how his pipe designs take after intestines and tapeworms, and the game's achievements label portions of the world, the teeth, the throat, or the gut. When we're hiding from the hideous man-pigs, we can no longer rely on our senses. Darkness all around and the ceaseless infernal grind of machinery. Can't see, can't hear. We are foreigners in an unwelcome body that rejects us at every turn.
I have carried this world on my back with its legs about me. Damn this wretched soul. I am given birth to nothing but machinery.
The game's plot, too, hinges on these splits and bifurcations. Mandus's sons are twins, Their mother died giving birth to them. Their violent birth mirrors that of Mandus's machine, in which a piece of his soul is literally and figuratively embedded. One note reads, "I looked at them, covered in the blood of their dead mother, little piglets squalling in their swaddling, and my heart was at once filled with a great love and a consuming hate I could never have imagined." At that point, did my soul split, creating him? Was this the egg of my soul, the moment the great clock began to tick? The love of a child and the hatred of the world they are born into. Elsewhere, Mandus speaks of laying an egg which hatches into the sprawling machine we traverse in the game. His split soul animates the character of the engineer, who is really the voice of the machine and a projection of Mandus's repressed memories. In another note, the figure of the child is more ambiguous, and when they first said "Daddy," my heart was molten, as if blood frozen upon the ground were held up to the sun to thaw and slop. And they were inseparable, always together, one soul in two bodies, and my love was all-consuming. Is this about his sons, or him and his engineer? Here the forms of father, child, creation, even lover, melt and blend in the process of bestowing new life. A birth is always a violent event, in the sense that the creation of another is also the negation of oneself. Bataille calls sexual reproduction a luxurious detour, in that it consumes the excess energy we can no longer put towards our own growth. For him, it is merely the accentuation of cell division. Although reproduction may appear to lead to the growth of the species, on an individual level it really is a wasteful process. This is especially true for animals, where the individuals engendered are clearly separate from those that engender them. This truth is disturbing to Mandus. Overcome by alienation from humanity, he cannot separate his sons from his egg, his idea of himself from what he has become. Physically, the egg is the arcane artifact Mandus recovered from Mexico. We discover it is the dark impulse which led him to sacrifice his own sons.
And you came then to London, and you set me upon a mantelpiece, and then you went into the house and gathered the servants, and reset you and I on recrafting them, and then you went into the garden and buried those tiny shattered skulls alone.
But let's step back for a moment. In order to understand excess, luxury, and sacrifice, we must first grasp Bataille's notion of general economy, which is a lot more insane than it sounds. In his own estimation, it is nothing less than a Copernican transformation in how we think about life. And he means this literally. Bataille thinks that to talk about energy, we have to begin with the sun. He writes, "Solar radiation results in a superabundance of energy on the surface of the globe. The sun gives without ever receiving. Knowing this, we understand that all life on Earth is the result of cosmic waste. Everything we see around us exists in this play of energy which the sun freely bestows us with." This conception is the core of one of Bataille's most provocative ideas, the solar anus. In a highly irreverent way, Bataille is calling attention to the sun as an agent of excretion as well as a source of life. The sun is rotten. To look directly at it is to be driven mad. The closest we can get, Bataille argues, is the sacrifice of the sun in effigy.
Sunset in the window like a bleeding sky, the horizon a slit throat, the seeping dark to drain the guilt from us.
Only when the sun bleeds can we glimpse it. And when we can conceive of all energy from the first as a flow of excess, we understand that consumption, not production, is the major organizing force of human society and economics. So, if everything on Earth contains an excess of solar energy, why then do we see starving children, impoverished nations, and the like? Well, remember that Bataille's conception of excess extends even to seemingly fundamental aspects of life, like growth and reproduction. Individuals and groups may have to deal with want and lack, but man is not just the separate being that contends with the living world and with other men for his share of resources. The general movement of exudation, of waste, of living matter, destines him in a privileged way to that glorious operation, to useless consumption. In this way, the accursed share is a fundamental fact of the human condition. Normally, this excess leads to population booms and the further expansion of production. Life always aspires towards ever more growth, but when growth comes up against boundaries, geographic, demographic, etc., The excess can no longer be expelled, and it begins to boil. In the explosive character of this pressurized activity, we apprehend conflagrations befitting the solar origin of its movement. In other words, we can't get away from the heat of the sun. Its energy is always latent in everything we do. The curse of man is that, ignorant of these principles, we cannot direct our excess energy in a salvific way.
These men, Professor, these so-called men of vision, they would shackle the masses to a wheel and turn it till their backs break. All for that opiate, the lure of profit.
But what solution, my dear man? How to break a cycle? You cannot simply remove the promise of a better world for these unfortunates.
We do not need to wait. We can bring forth paradise now. We can speed the passion. With only a small sacrifice, we can hold the apocalypse. With just a small sacrifice, we can free our shackles and deliver them to paradise now.
Mandus and Bataille actually share this hope, that a knowledge of general economy will lead man to develop for the first time a true self-consciousness. Without this intervention, our consumption demands extravagant wars and rampant inequality. And when civilizations in the past have tamed this pressure, it was often through ritual human sacrifice.
I am the jaguar-faced man. I am the feathered serpent. This priesthood is mine.
Mandus and Bataille share an obsession with the Aztec culture. For both, the fascination revolves around the centrality of human sacrifice to Aztec religion and society. In Aztec myth, the sun continually decays. The god Nanahuatzin sacrificed himself to bring light into the world, and now demands sacrifices of his own to sustain his existence. According to what Aztecs told the Spanish missionary and so-called first anthropologist Bernardino de Sahagún, men and wars were created so that there would be people whose hearts and blood could be taken, so that the sun might eat. In this view, humanity is both the sun's waste product and its vital sustenance. Fascinatingly, the idea of a solar anus is present in many Mesoamerican words for gold. The Aztec word Teocuitlatl literally means excrement of the gods, and the Maya word Taquin is best rendered as sun shit. Two cultures from different language families independently arrived at the same conclusion as Bataille hundreds of years later, that everything of value is merely a solar accident.
Oh, God help me. I am lost in the dry paper soul of the world.
But why sacrifice? What does it do? In its original etymology, sacrifice only meant to make holy. Bataille writes, "Sacrifice restores to the sacred world that which servile use has degraded, rendered profane." All labor, not just under capitalism, desubjectivizes human beings. It renders them into things which can be said to be useful or not. But if one is utterly annihilated, heart carved out and body discarded, then we can no longer speak of man as a thing. In sacrifice, one becomes the accursed share, the body consumed without profit. But at the same time, the victim enters into a realm of intimacy known to very few. Destruction is the best means of negating a utilitarian relation. This negation, and the restoration of intimacy to human existence, is what Bataille sees as the aim of all religion. We observe this in the regal treatment lavished upon Aztec victims before their death, and its converse in Mandus's sacrifice of his sons to spare them a life of alienation and misery.
My heart is your heart. I will rip them loose from this rotten world and set them to burn, all to save them.
The heat of sacrifice ignites the dry paper soul into something warm and divine. When Mandus reflects on his fateful trip to Mexico, he remarks, "Perhaps their tragedy was they could simply not spill blood enough to prevent the sky from falling upon them." And yet, Mandus builds his temple not to stave off the apocalypse, but to herald its arrival.
Water in his shoes. Always the water, and the sparks of the embers of the wheels. It's too bony! It's too damn bony!
Industrial growth precedes demographic expansion. The factories produce their waste in the form of more consumers. This, Bataille says, is the fleshy aspect of the bony proliferation of the factories. For Mandus, The metalwork is always too bony. The architecture should blend and flow, not grind and creak. The actual functioning of his machine is the game's most fantastical achievement. The electricity used to stun the pigs is built up by friction between their carts and the conveyor belt. Methane vapors are captured to drive the engines, and Mandus heats his mansion with the excess warmth produced by the refrigeration process. Even raw sewage is put to work.
Isn't it dangerous allowing this filthy discharge to collect so close to the core?
We can use the flow to drive the turbines. There will always be a torrent of excreta flooding through these tunnels. We can use this to supplement the steam production and ensure constancy.
Dear God, the stench! This fecal matter is the true product of the age.
The true product, indeed. As Mandus puts it, the more product is processed, the more power becomes available to the machine, and productivity is actually increased. By orienting his entire operation around byproducts and waste, he succeeds in inventing a perpetual motion machine of excrement and viscera. His operation is in perfect accord with Bataille's principles: constant growth churned into constant expansion, accelerating, always inhaling and exhaling with renewed pressure. But all of this expansion requires room of the clandestine sort, and so Mandus must dig deeper, ever deeper, carving out room for his monstrous invention. The previous Amnesia was called The Dark Descent, but A Machine for Pigs wrings a lot of horror out of its non-Euclidean descent into hell. Bataille discusses the erotic movements of the earth, how eruptive forces accumulate in those who are necessarily situated below. Pressure builds the further down we tunnel. The underground is home to a constant roil. The sun's excreted rays cannot penetrate so deep, but their influence is there, layered in the sediment. All that we burrow through is history, the crystallized light of ages stacked upon ages. As Mandus digs, he asks, what places lie buried beneath us? At the center of the planet, my architect tells me, there is a great iron ball. It is the egg of the world. And so he lays his egg in the tumult of the planet's core, and damning all considerations of space, it hatches into a grand temple.
I tell you, Professor, a trail of greed brings rich men to your door like pigs to truffles.
It would have been easy to make this a story about capitalism gone awry. Instead, the game presents its pigs as agents of class struggle, of revolution. Mandus's operations were never in the service of profit, but of sacrifice. He lures in the rich and powerful with carnal pleasures, and converts them into fodder for his army of swine. They are fit only to be plumped up and then devoured. In this way, he says, we have created our very own bottled revolution, for the movement of the masses is a causal factor in the extermination of the rich. But first, the masses must be cleansed in filth, and their characters enhanced. The metaphor of pig occupies a dual valence in Mandus's mind. When applied to the wealthy, it turns them inside out, revealing their wretched innards. Pig, in this sense, is an epithet and a denunciation. But stitching together the downtrodden with swine flesh has an altogether different meaning. When the lower classes take on these characteristics, Mandus compares it to evolution. His new creatures are loyal, clever, strong, easily sated, the first being with a full consciousness of self. Perversely, the man-pig is positioned as rational, as higher than the Untermensch, who is rotten with sentimentality.
I have such visions to share with thee, if my jaw be unshackled and you harvest the crust from my eyes. Make me clean, Mandus, that my thoughts and words can unfouled be.
Cleanliness is always the word on Mandus's tongue. He could not see the dirt of empire and industry until returning from the pristine jungle. But so, like a pig, he wallows in the mud to wash himself clean. His goal was always salvation, first for his sons, then the world, and finally himself, which is why he betrays the machine he labored so long to build. What is the machine for pigs? It is chiefly a history machine. Its goal is to beckon the future to the present, where it can be directed, aimed with greater clarity. Writing after the 2 world wars, Bataille diagnosed them as the ruin that befalls civilizations which cannot rid themselves of their incendiary surplus. Like an unbroken animal that cannot be trained, it is this energy that destroys us. It is we who pay the price of the inevitable explosion. The machine tells us as much itself.
You may hate me, Mandus, but I have seen the future, your 20th century, and let me tell you this, a far greater slaughter awaits you there. I seek to save the world by blood now, before millions fall beneath history, pushed under by blade, bullet, and gas.
The chief product of the machine is not blood or shit or an army of man-pigs. It is understanding. Mandus and Bataille rail against ignorance above all else. Ignorance causes us to undergo what we could bring about in our own way if we only understood. Both of them diviners, reading the 20th century backwards and forwards in the thin light at the edge of the sun. The rotten sun, which gave us our blood and demanded we spill it. At the end, when we sit atop the pyramid in the cracked shell of the egg, it is our heart that is ripped out. With no one even to receive the offering, Mandus's death is the ultimate repudiation of consumption. Sacrificed and sacralized, he transcends the accursed share, even as the city above him remains cursed, caught in the impenetrable half-light between ruin and revolution.
This is your coming century. They will eat the Mandus. They will make pigs of you all, and they will bury their snouts into your ribs, and they will eat your